All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have your attention, please? I think it's 7 o'clock now. We should start. Pat said she's a little scared because we get all the cream of the academic society in Thailand here. But anyway, welcome you all to the lecture tonight. We are very honored and privileged to have Pat Momlung Pattaratorn Chirapravati with us today, and welcome back. For those of you who might not know her well, she has been a Buddhist studies scholar for years, and she has written a lot of books. One was on the Buddhist votive tablet, which has been referred to a lot, and also the Royal Siamese divination book was published in French. And she has also co-curated quite a few important exhibitions in the States, two of which was at the San Francisco Museum of Arts, Asian Art Museum, Kingdom of Siam and the Emerald Cities. And back in 2014, she did another work of co-curating a very major exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum in New York called The Lost Kingdom. That was also very groundbreaking as well. And every time she's here in Thailand, she always has the new finding about her research on the Buddhist studies. And we are very privileged to have her with us today to present to us her new findings, which has just been published. Right now, she's a long-serving, very respected faculty at the University of California, Sacramento. And 2 years ago, she was also here serving as a head of the Department of the Asian Studies at the Yale NUS in Singapore. So without further ado, may I please have Pat up here to meet you, please.
Thank you so very much, Ek, and thank you, the Siam Society, for having me giving this talk again. I was here the last time when the Society created the book Renaissance Princess. I think that was my last talk many years ago. And this talk is based on my article that just recently published in a book called Across the South of Asia, a volume in honor of Professor Robert Brown. And it just published by DK Publisher in Indian Traditions. So kind of interesting that Robert Brown's students put together. I wasn't his student. I was Stanley O'Connor's student at Cornell. But I met him when I was still young. My uncle, Prince Supat, asked me to pick him up, so I ended up writing this book. But when I was at a faculty at Yale NUS in Singapore, I taught a class called Arts of Myanmar, and I became totally in love with Burmese materials, especially in the Pagan, Sakai, and like a Mandalay area, and southern part in Daegu. I was totally intrigued by that, and I wanted to learn how to speak Burmese and then read Burmese, but that's very difficult. So, and then I am so thrilled to see many of my ajahn here. I cannot have a better audience like tonight, and at the same time I feel scared because one of the prominent scholars here, I quoted him from the first slides, and he said he's going to leave if he see that. But anyhow, my talk is going to be on King Aniruddha's clay tablets. As you may remember, zillion years ago, Ek mentioned that I published a book called Votive Tablets in Thailand by Oxford. It was a very small book, but I wrote my PhD dissertation at Cornell on the cult of votive tablets in 1994. And then I went on to work on something else, and just recently came back to work on this subject matter again. And so I feel that maybe there's some kind of obsession that I have with votive tablets. But who wouldn't, They are so beautiful. So I started with I decided that to keep myself on track, I hope you don't mind that I'm going to read my paper instead of talking. Some part I'm going to talk and some part I'm going to read. I quoted Peter Skilling in his excellent article on Buddhist sealing in Thailand and Southeast Asia, iconography, function, and visual context. I highly recommended you to read this article if you are interested in Burma and votive tablets. He said that the custom of inscribing tablets with the donor's name and aspiration does not seem to have been practiced in India, in Chao Valley or the Malay Peninsula. It is from Pagan in Upper Burma that we have a wealth of sealing, inscribed and uninscribed. Okay, so remember that. So what happened was that in 2016, I visited an antique store in Singapore and saw a basket of terracotta tablets from Myanmar that were for sale. These new Buddhist tablets were made in a style similar to one type produced by the 11th century Burmese King Aniruddha. One of the tablets has an inscription on the back. So this is the basket. You can see it's a Singapore dollar. And I saw this, I was so excited. I said, what is going on here? So a scholar, a historian of Burmese studies, Gek Yango, translated the inscription for me. And so this is the inscription, and she read as a wish requested at temple or a wish requested carry Lord Buddha. So this is the translation of it. So the word Praya can refer to both the Buddha and pagoda temple. In this case, it is an invocation or expression addressed to Lord Buddha by the maker of the tablets. During my visit to Pagan in the same year, I discovered similar tablets with inscription on the back at a shop near a temple. At a shop near a temple that sold both antique and new tablets. Unfortunately, I did not take pictures of them. Nonetheless, it is clear that tablet makers continue to inscribe traditional Burmese dedicatory inscription on the back of tablets. So, why did donative inscription on tablets become popular in the Pagan period? How did the practice begin and what was its purpose? This article, this talk, I looked into the tradition. I was just curious as what's going on. So why did donative inscription on the tablets became popular in Pagan period? And how did the practice begin and what was its purpose? So this talks focus on the making of tablets in Myanmar during King Aniruddha of Pagan, and then traces the origin of his practice of inscribing names and dedicatory inscription on them. So started, just this is a brief, for those of you who don't know what tablets are, in the 7th century, we know the chronicle that was done by I Ching, who talks about whoever wanted to gain merit, you can make this a little, use an image that make of a grain of barley or even a small things. And this will be, a person who make this will obtain special good success for limited as the 7 seas and good rewards which last as long as 4 rebirths. And then we know for sure that the tablets first started in Nalanda in India, and it became from 7th century. And based on the archaeological remains of Buddhist tablets, we know that it was commonly produced by monks in temples in Nalanda. And then, although at present Buddhist practitioners no longer stamp their own tablets as offerings, monks still make tablets at temples in Southeast Asia, especially, Thailand and Myanmar. And in Thailand, people started wearing amulets, right? That came from first, started with the tablets. So Peter, in his article, talks about the term that was used in Pagan Sangasha or Sacha, which means dedicatory tablets. a term that Aniruddha used in his tablets, and it didn't get used after that. And then in the past, many people, when they refer to these materials, they refer to it as votive tablets. Peter didn't really like the idea of the word votive, because he thinks that their function and ritual context indicates that they were neither votive offerings nor souvenirs of important Buddhist sites, as people refer to long time ago. I prefer to use the word Buddhist tablets instead of sealing like Peter, because the materials that I'm dealing with, the size came from small and as big as 2 feet, bigger than feet. So I didn't really feel that could be kind of appropriate to call it sealing. So I decided to call it Buddhist tablets, not votive, but just Buddhist tablets. So when we talk about Burma, the Pagan, the kingdom of Pagan is right here, okay? And Aniruddha founded his kingdom, but the sites that we found, tablets, were distributed in different cities from the north, Amtukuang, here at Sakai, Pagan, all the way down to Dinghi, Guan Cave, and Mataban. So you can see that, it went all the way down to Tavoy and Chinketi Pagoda. So this is kind of interesting, right, that Aniruddha decided to produce the tablets. So Buddhist tablets, as you know, that you get clay, you get a mold, you put a clay on the mold, you press it, you get tablets. It can be part of meditation practice. It can be, you can make as many as you like. So that's why monks use that, produce that even in caves in southern Thailand. Atisha, when he was a monk in Srivijaya, he did the same thing. So it was a common practice for merit making and meditation in both Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka. And the most common inscription that we see on votive tablets are the Yedama, which Peter actually wrote extensively on Yedama. And this is a concise statement of the essence of the Buddha's teaching, and it was believed to have secured the conversation of the Buddha to his 2 leading disciples. So the Yedama is commonly inscribed on the base or in the back of not only just votive tablets, but large objects also. So the oldest tablets were made in Pew region. Let me look for my note. Okay, so the oldest one is made in Pew region in Sikaset, and in the Mon region in the south, such as at Bago, in the 9th to 13th century. And unfortunately, the language is only partially understood, so the meaning of this inscription is not yet decipherable. So hopefully in the future we can create a scholar who learn how to read and Pew language. So far we don't know what happened. We know that they did it. They inscribed tablets that predate Pagan period. Now, when we talk about Pagan period, I'd like to just briefly talk to you that King Aniruddha, became the first king, Anuruddha. He was the first king of Pagan. He ruled from 1044 to 1077, and then his son became the second king. Yansita, his half-brother, who was also his assistant, became the third king, and Situ, the grandson, became the fourth king. But then that the Mongol invaded Burma many, many times, actually, between 1277 to 1301, and that's how Pagan period ended. It was invaded by Mongol in 1287. So, when we come to talk about the tablets, I'm going to start reading now. That Aniruddha tablets have been discovered around Myanmar in Natwe, north of Taguang, to Taku near Tenasserim in the south. They range in size from 4 3/4 inches to 2 feet and a half inches. Several tablets bear distinctive donor inscription claiming that Aniruddha made the tablet with his own hands for the sake of deliverance. This is very important. Although the tablets were produced by a press mold technique, the dedicatory inscriptions were inscribed individually on the front of the lower rim, on the reverse side, or on the base of the tablets. Aniruddha's tablets from Kabin reads. This is the one, one of the biggest one. As you can see, the Buddha seated with a hand reaching down. Most of you know that this is the pre-enlightenment scene, right? The Buddha reaching for at the moment before he attained enlightenment. And this is the Mahabodhi temple in Bodh Gaya. And the Burmese, of course, was very involved in the restoration of Mahabodhi temple during Yansita's period. So on the base of Aniruddha tablets at Kabin, it reads, "The Blessed One was made by the great king, the glorious Aniruddha, with his own hands for the sake of liberation." Luz translated that. Or the other one read, "By me, King Aniruddha, this mold of Sukata has been made. Through this good deed, may I obtain the path to Nirvana when Maitreya is fully enlightened." It was translated by Duracell. So you can see Buddha seated under the Bodhi tree at Mahabodhi temple with Yedamma, and then the inscription is inscribed in the back. This is the type that is most popular and is very important, even though it doesn't look as beautiful as the previous one. But you can see that this is 50 Buddha's tablet with an inscription of Yedamma and the name of Aniruddha inscribed on the bottom of it. So a common type of this, the earliest Aniruddha tablets may be those at Myeongdi Pagoda at Kabin. So this is the one that I just read for you. What is really interesting is that Charles Duracell, a Pali specialist who was the first to read and translate the inscription on these tablets, mentioned that at the time of his writing in around 1920, more than 20 of them were still in situ, encircling the two uppermost octagonal terraces. At 2 feet and 7 inches by 1 feet and 6 inches, they are the largest known tablets made by Aniruddha. They are also the largest tablets known in Southeast Asia. How does it look like? So this is, I just talk about. So this is the type. So if you look at Myeongdi Pagoda, which recently more excavation had been done, Elizabeth Moore was very involved with this excavation, and they found, that they found more of Myeongdi Pagoda little pieces that were placed. This is what I just read, and they found signature of this type, and this is what Gordon Luz talk about, that the Blessed One was made by the greatest king, see Aniruddha the divine with his own hands. Okay, so this is the inscription, and you can see at the bottom, of Aniruddha tablet, and there's no donative inscription that were inscribed individually. So when the clay was still wet, they inscribed the name and the Yedamma. The Yedamma was stamped on, but the name of the king was inscribed on it. So they do that before they bake the tablets. So dedicatory inscription on tablets seem to be limited to Southeast Asia, as Peter suggested. in particular to Pagan period, Myanmar and northeastern region of Thailand. So this is where they found the pieces. So there were debates that, well, was this stupa made by Aniruddha or was it made before Aniruddha period? And Don Stratner actually thought that it was probably made by another king, because if it was built by Aniruddha, the tablets should be able to fit inside of the rail, right? But it's way too big, and they were placed on the upper terrace of the stupa. So because of that, there were at least 5 types of tablets that were produced and contained the names of the king and his dedicatory inscription. So here is the type recently discovered, and they are placed in the museum in Pagan. So if you are interested, Don Stratner published article on these couple of these tablets. Another site that we find Aniruddha's tablets, a number of them were found with Aniruddha tablets inscribed in Burmese, but rather not in Burmese, but in Pali and Sanskrit languages, written in Oman script. Gordon Liu suggests that the earliest known Burmese language inscription is that of Laktache Pagoda, dated to 1058 CE. So, this is the one that has terracotta tablets, at least 5 tablets types that I mentioned, inscribed in Burmese rather than Pali. Okay, and this is the type. If you are interested, the Siam Society, I borrowed them before, Old Burma and Early Pagan by Gordon Liu. There are 3 volumes. The second one has inscription, and the third one has photographs. So I took photograph and I asked for permission to use it for my talk. So with the inscription, there's many types of 10 Buddha tablets with the inscription in the back, with Lokanatha tablets with the same inscription, okay, and then 5 Buddha's tablets. So then when I got through this, I thought, why did King Aniruddha choose to produce tablets and make donative inscription on them instead of using other prominent objects such as stone pillars or sema stone? As you know, the Galayani sema is the biggest, longest inscription. And did he really inscribe and make the tablets himself, as is claimed in the inscription? The inscription said, I, Aniruddha, made it with my own hand. With my own hand. So I thought, what is going on there? So I then, okay, sorry, I have to look. So Aniruddha tablets have also been found as far away as the south, in the south, in Taku, in the south of present-day Myanmar. Liu suggests that Aniruddha's main intention in scattering his plague all over Burma was for religious purposes, because the king wished to convert all the Burmese to Buddhism from animism. As you know, that nuts, people worship nuts, right? They are spirits. So he wanted to convert them to Buddhism. Aniruddha seems to have preferred that his name be written in either Pali or Sanskrit. The scholar who translated the inscription for me, wrote a book. So she explained that the appropriation, let's see, sorry, where was I now? Oh, here. Okay. So talk about this. She said, I quoted her, the appropriation of Sanskrit and all Pali Buddhist titles provided the context for how fellow Buddhists as well as non-Buddhist populations could perceive the king, a Buddhist monarch who could be seen simultaneously as divine. Okay, Aniruddha never called himself Chakravartin. Okay, so during his 33 years as the first king of Pagan-based empire, Aniruddha was determined to acquire relics of the Buddha to be established in his temple in Pagan and try to obtain Tripitaka texts for establishing the Sinhalese lineage of Theravada in Pagan. Goal states that in the pursuit of this goal, Aniruddha led various expeditions to Pattaratorn, Sri Lanka, and Tarup Gandhara. The king compiled chronicles as part of his royal duty and as an act of purification. He did not address himself as a universal monarch, Chakravartin, however. In fact, this term was first used by a later king of Pagan, who referred to Aniruddha as Chakravartin on an inscription at Lokanatha Pagoda in Pagan dated to 1207. Go, however, suggests that Aniruddha considered himself to be a universal monarch because he placed Pagan at the same level as Sri Lanka and Haripunjai in northern Thailand as the three leading centers of Buddhism at the time. She further states that he probably became aware of a great Buddhist milieu within which he could make an impression. The distribution of votive tablets over a large swath of geographical space certainly demonstrate Anuruddha's determination to extend his presence throughout what he considered to be the boundary of his polity. So if this is the case, if we accept of her reading, it seems that Aniruddha killed two birds with one stone. He used his dedicatory inscription for both political purposes and merit-making. Aniruddha was obviously not the first king to be a great supporter of Buddhism, but in whose step did he follow? I just quote her. Okay, so in whose step what he followed? Among the early great supporters of Buddhism in South and Southeast Asia, King Ashoka of Maurya dynasty ruled from 279 to 32 BCE, and King Duttagamani of Sri Lanka ruled in 161 to 37 BCE, were the two monarchs whose legends were most prominently circulated and whose name appear in numerous Southeast Asian chronicles as early supporter of Buddhism. After the great Mauryan King Ashoka was converted to Buddhism, he is said to have acquired relics of the Buddha from the original 7 stupa and built 84,000 stupa around India. King Ashoka left his inscription or edicts or dharma on rock slabs and erected stone pillars at major Buddhist sites in India, including Saranath, Sankisha, and Vaisala, to make the 15th anniversary of Dhamma Jaya, as well as 25 years on the throne. 3 edicts of Dharma were produced. An identical version have been found on 6 pillars, according to inscription of the 5th Dhammapali entitled "What I Do for the Promotion of Dharma." King Ashoka mentioned that, "For this purpose is this Dharma document caused to be engraved by me. May they practice it in this manner. May it also last long. Those who practice thus will do a good deed." Another one in the 8th Dhammapali, made during the 28th year of his reign, Ashoka clearly indicated that this Dhamma document should be engraved wherever there are stone pillars or rock slabs in order that it may last long. Be me, who was consecrated for 27 years, this Dharma document made to be written. Okay. And the seventh Dharma Pali, made during the 27th year of Ashoka reign, however, is the only record that clearly indicates that King Ashoka was the person who engraved 3 documents. It proclaimed that this Dharma document was engraved by me, who have been consecrated for 26 years. Okay, that's the one. So although there is no available evidence that the inscription on Ashoka were known in Pagan, the legends of King Ashoka were likely familiar in South and Southeast Asia in Aniruddha's time. Monks from Southeast Asia also went on pilgrim to India and Sri Lanka. There is ample evidence of contact between Myanmar and India as early as the 8th century, though through contact must have begun earlier. Written documents regard the relationship between the kingdom of Pagan and the Pala Empire in the region of Bihar and Bengal in the 11th and 12th centuries can be found in 2 inscriptions from both Gaya. The first inscription was set up by King Yansita, who had been Aniruddha's general, and followed closely the practice of stamping Buddhist tablets with inscription. The second inscription provides inscription of repair to the Mahabodhi temple carried out by the Burmese monk Lord Thera Dhammaraja Guru with the help of local ruler. The repair commenced in late 1295 and were completed in 1298. Although the inscription post-date Aniruddha, it is reasonable to suppose that the story of King Ashoka would have been known by him because King Ashoka legends are included in the 5th century Sinhalese chronicle, the Mahavamsa, and in the later included in its extension, the 13th century Julavamsa, which credits Ashoka with sending Buddha's relic and monks to spread Buddhism in Sri Lanka. Ashoka's significant role in disseminating Buddha relics and supporting the religion is also reverently referred to in Northern Thai Chronicle, the 16th century Jina Gala Mali Pagalanam, which draw from Sri Lankan Chronicle and local oral tradition, and also attributes the presence of many relics in the region to Ashoka. This is just to show you how beautiful Yansita's tablets are with the same subject matter, and Yedama Creed in Mali, Mon, Myanmar script, right? This is the 8th great scene in the life of the Buddha. So the detail, very beautiful. So my question came again after I was reading this. Of course, the excavation of Ashoka columns didn't happen until the British came and excavated the sites and all those. So of course they didn't see these columns. I didn't want to mislead you, but the legends about Ashoka was widely known through many chronicles. So then I thought, Aniruddha said he was the one inscribed the inscription himself, the dedicatory inscription. Then I said, who inscribed the donative inscription? Is it possible that Aniruddha wrote the inscription himself? So the evidence suggests that Aniruddha tried to style himself as a great Buddhist king in the spirit of King Ashoka, and that thus he may also have been inspired to produce dedicatory inscription with his own hand, quote and unquote. Neither Sri Lankan nor Northern Thai king left such dedicatory inscription in the manner of King Ashoka. Nonetheless, unlike the large, tall columns that King Ashoka had made, Aniruddha chose to make tablets and inscribe dedicatory on them personally. As mentioned earlier, tablets are much easier to make and can be produced by anyone with access to a mold and clay. The native inscriptions were inscribed when the clay was still wet. Hence, it is clear that this required little labor and effort, and they could be pressed easily by the king himself. It seems that Aniruddha could have inscribed at least one of the tablets at each site where he had his temple built. In addition, during his military expedition to other regions, Aniruddha left tablets that carry his name at the site he conquered. In these cases, he was not only making tablets as an act of merit making by pious Buddhists, but also as political act proclaiming his power over newly conquered land. Two of Aniruddha's generals also left tablets with donative inscription during their military expansion. After Aniruddha period, similar tablets and donative inscription appear on clay tablets that name other Pagan kings, as I showed to you, and by the queen, monks, and high officers. The inscription continued to be in Pali and Sanskrit, but in addition to the old Mon script, Nagali script was also used. Peter Skilling analyzed the royal tablets and surmised that the goal of making tablets, this is the inscription. These are some of the ones that, So he analyzed and he said, to produce merit, to share merit with others, and to realize liberation of Buddhahood. So I show you some kind of dedicatory inscription by Maharaja Bajabaran that also said he did it with his own hand. King Tribhuvanaditya claimed that he fired the image by himself. So there's a lot of argument, and some scholars like Weidlinger completely believe that Aniruddha did it with his own hand, and he linked his debate to the 16th century Northern Thai chronicle Jinagala Mali Pagaranam and the 18th century Burmese chronicle that he thought for sure that they were made. So I went to the list just to show you Peter's list appendix in Peter's article that he listed the name of donors and gold. These are by different kings that talk about who did it with, like the queen, with her own hand, and then with the chief queen with her own hands. The high officers did it for the sake of liberation with his own hands after that. And then the donor of Law Samben made them for merit of the king, the mother, and the father. And the merit that they gained, which for being released from the measureless suffering of existence and all those. So you see inscriptions that were copied later on by kings, queens, high officers, and monks. So this became a kind of tradition that whoever did that would inscribe their own inscription. And of course, they have to do it at the site, right, when the clay is still wet, so they can inscribe their own inscription. So this is completely interesting because there's no other places in Asia besides Pagan period that this practice happened, and it happened because of Aniruddha. Is there anybody else besides King Ashoka that may use tablets and do it as an act of merit making and inscribing that? There's another figure, which is, so this is what Peter Skilling analyzed, I read earlier, that to produce merit, to share merit with others, and to realize liberation of Buddhahood, okay? So then another person, very interesting, if you read my book and my article, my PhD dissertation, which I gave a copy to the Siam Society. Aticha was another Buddhist monk that he was actually contemporary to Aniruddha. And he was a Bengali monk who spent 12 years between 1012 to 1024 at Srivijaya in the present-day Malay archipelago. In 1025, he became the abbot of Vikramsira, one of the two most important Buddhist centers in India. When he was at Srivijaya, Ashoka was known for making tablets in a cave as part of his daily meditation practice and merit making. We know from the Chinese monk Xuanzang and I Ching, as well as from Atisha, that in India and in Tibet, after tablets or miniature stupas were made, they were placed inside actual stupas. The Yedama inscription on them were typically written in Sanskrit. So Atisha continued to promote the making of tablets and miniature stupa and wrote an important text called The Ritual of Making Miniature Clay Stupa of the Vehicle of Perfection in order to do so. One type of Atisha's tablet is again this type, which is 50 Buddhas. So we see that in southern Thailand. We saw that in Pagan, done, regularly by King Aniruddha. So let's see, how much time do I have? All this is the same as the one I mentioned in Aniruddha. 10 minutes, okay. So this particular type of tablets was also produced by Aniruddha. Example were recovered for Shui Xuan Dao at Minbu and Bao Dao Pi Pagoda in Sikaset. Aniruddha 50 Buddha's tablet is closely related both iconographically and stylistically to tablets found in limestone caves in the Thai peninsula dated to around the 11th century, as well as to some found in Tibet. In addition, clay Buddhist tablets may have been chosen for merit making by Aniruddha because he was on military campaigns in the Mon region, which is situated on alluvial plains where stone is scarce. Hence, the choice of medium could have been dictated by what was locally available. As mentioned earlier, Kebin, where the largest of Aniruddha inscribed tablets were recovered, was famous for pottery. Thus, it seems reasonable that clay was chosen as the medium. Later, after his expedition, Buddhist tablets continued to be made in Pagan both by Aniruddha himself and by his successor. I may have skipped one slide. In Kebin, they make pottery that is very popular, still being produced to these days. There's kind of decoration on it. At one stupa, they found a pottery filled with votive tablets, all belong to Aniruddha also. So we know that that was one of the very first places that he produced his tablets. Although King Aniruddha invented neither the making of Buddhist tablets nor of donative inscriptions, he actively used tablets in act of merit making and was the first Burmese king to include donative inscription that proclaim devotion to Buddhism, and the first to ritually stamp tablets with his own hands. He also stated clearly that his goal was to accrue merit and share the merit with the others, and to realize liberation or Buddhahood. This unique practice continued in Myanmar from Aniruddha's time until the present. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I talk a little bit too fast and I skip, but I thought it may be a little bit too boring. So if you have any question, I'd be happy to answer.
Can you say something about this king? What is his life is like, and was he very Buddhist?
Well, you remember He worshipped nuts, right? And then he was converted to Buddhism. So because of that, he wanted to spread Buddhism. At first, he was trying to make people stop worshipping spirits. Of course, it didn't work. Did it stop in Thailand? I think we worship more and more spirits, right? So it didn't stop. So what did he do? He then included nuts inside of Buddhist temples. If you go to Burma now, you will see that there's shrine with, especially the famous one, right? What is the name of that nut? Yeah. Thep Than Chai, like that. So you see that they have to combine animism with Buddhism. This is very Southeast Asia. You're not going to have other countries that tolerate spirits and Buddhism together. Yes. Did I answer your question? Okay. So because of that, he spread it. So he conquered from the north all the way down to the south. All down to Mataban and all that region, and then he went back when he established his kingdom in Pagan. Then it's based on that. He went to the north and he conquered the rest in the north also.
So he was a warrior and
yes,
quite a sort of aggressive warrior.
Yes.
So would there be something he felt that he need to recompense the number of people he killed and?
I think that's why he said so many times in different inscriptions that this is done for merit making and help him, get out and go into Nirvana and to meet the future Buddha Maitreya. He said that in many inscriptions. It's very interesting. If you go to Gordon Liu's book, Old Burma and Early Pagan, you'll be able to read all of the inscription in there. I just brought only some of them to make my point. But it's totally interesting, Nicola.
Thank you. Can you tell us a bit more about the languages that are used, the donative inscriptions, in Pali or Burmese? Or?
Well, they use Sanskrit and Pali in Mon script, but later on, actually, other kings, instead of that, they decided to use Mon script. Yeah, Mon language. Yeah, Mon language. But Sanskrit he used. Yeah.
Excuse me. In your opinion, why did this tradition not continue down to the post-Pagan period?
Well, it continued with Yansita and all of those.
Okay.
But then the kingdom ended, right? And then the capital city moved after Pagan period. So the other kings didn't really have the same kind of practice. There's a lot of transmission of Buddhist texts from southern part of Burma, in Mataban region and Sri Lanka. There's new types of Buddhist texts that came on, and I think that would change the tradition. And on top of that, you remember in the Pala and Sena region, 11th, 12th century, even though it started there, it never became very popular. It was in Nalanda region. When I was working on my PhD dissertation on tablets in Thailand, I went to Nalanda and I went to Bodh Gaya, Nalanda and all those. To my surprise, when I was in Bodh Gaya, I found Aniruddha type, the Pagan type, the thick type, in Thai temples that looks like what Benjamapapit, right? Yeah,
Thai
in
Bodh
there.
Gaya temple, right?
And some Burmese practitioner actually left them there, and then they brought them to Bodh Gaya also. Very interesting. It stopped in India and it became popular. But really interestingly enough, in Thailand, we have motifs to tablets, but we never really, we have Yedama, but nobody has inscribed the name except Chinese monks left 3 tablets at Wat Rajburana, saying that the name of the monk, may I, whatever, I forgot the name. Does anybody remember on the inscription, there's 3 inscriptions, it's in my article, yes, and so there's 3 monks, but the tablets in Ayutthaya at Rajburana were made of pewter. So this is like hand scribed on it. Very, very interesting. Yes, Ruth?
Yeah, what is the significance of the multiple Buddha images stamped in the back on the votive tablet?
Don't
like
you
the
think
50?
the more the better? Not just only...
What, is that all? It's just the more the better?
No, later on, instead of focusing like the Palasena period, they focus on life scene of the Buddha, especially the great Astamaha Pratiharya, right? Focus on that. But then later on, it's different. So they
have them in Thailand also, multiples.
Yes, especially in the cave. When I was doing my PhD dissertation, I had to go to cave in the south, and we are talking about 1994. It was very dangerous. So I took Pakadi Yukongdi, who is a very famous archaeologist, graduated from Silpakorn University. She went with me to the site all the way to the south. And they later on, after they excavated it, they had to cover it back, Yarang. I had to go with a policeman, and another guy was supposed to be Nakleng, and he's known for being a robber and all those. So I went with the police and those. So we hiked up to the cave, because that cave was very strenuous, as bad as Sitep. Have you climbed up, come to Morat in Sitep? This is as bad as that. And when you go in there, there's a limestone cave, believe it or not. Even now, you can still see remains of some of those unbaked clay tablets over there. I remember that when Professor Brown came to Thailand and Prince Supat asked me to be the driver for Professor Brown, and we were talking, he said when he went to those caves, anybody can pick them up, so he got a bag, and then some people like collect them for souvenir, but he didn't want to do that because he was worried that he's going to be damned. So he said that he collect them and put them back in the stupa, like that. So they were everywhere, really everywhere. Yeah. Can you email me, and then I will look it up, because my brain doesn't function well now. Sorry. That and then
you said that they were everywhere, and did you get a chance to go back now and ever?
Well, actually, it was very dangerous for many years. You remember Princess Vipawadi Langsit? Helicopter was shot down.
Right.
That was when I went.
Oh.
So
okay.
that's why my father said, "You're not going to finish your PhD if you have to go down again. You better not go." But I was curious, so I have to go. So I went all the way, all the sites in my PhD dissertation, I went to all the sites. Yeah. Yes.
Very interesting talk.
Thank you very much.
I'm curious why, or what was your process of reasoning which led you to abandon the idea of votive and go for the term donative? Was there something you discovered, or are you following someone else in this?
Peter discussed it in long article, and I agree with him that when we talk about votives what does motive mean? I'm not an English speaker. But sometimes Sedes was the one who said this was left as souvenir, right? Souvenir of the site of enlightenment, or the site that belonged to the Buddha's life story. Yes.
A votive tablet is one that is produced in the fulfillment of a vow normally.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So I wondered if there was some evidence that you uncovered that led you to think this can't be maintained.
So Peter is I admire his work, and he actually go to extreme to call it sealing, sealing. I don't see sealing as the thing that I still feel a little bit anxious about it, So I thought, well, it's Buddhist. The materials I work on are all Buddhist, but are there Hindu kind of sealing. So yes, there are, like Kuvera and all those. But I focus on this article that I decided that it's appropriate to call it Buddhist tablets. And because for I can't call the cabin tablets that is 2 feet tall as a ceiling. It looks more like it has, square shape with top arch, more like a sema, like that. So I think for me, it's more appropriate to call it as Buddhist tablets. Yes, Ajahn. I can't hear
Ceiling
you.
is just the word used in the British Indian archaeological materials, so that was why I used the word. Molded tablets I also use, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need to choose one term only.
Yeah.
As for votive, votive is in fulfillment of a vow. So, for example, in the Catholic cathedrals of Europe, you see a lot of votive tablets saying, "Thank you, Maria," or whatever, for a certain image. So they've got what they wanted. And they put up this so-called votive tablet. But I don't know enough about all the details of that. But it seemed to be, they vowed, okay, I'm going to put a plaque if you grant my wish. Here, these are connected with vows, but not in fulfillment. The vow is not yet fulfilled. The vow is to see Maitreya in thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
So I just was being fussy and thinking that it doesn't really agree with the other usages I've seen in anthropology and art. Also in Japan, those wooden tablets that you hang on trees.
Yes.
Ema, is this what I forget?
Yeah.
Those are also called votive tablets. So there seemed to be a wide range of votive tablets, but thereafter you receive the vow. The vow is fulfilled. That was why. That may be a small distinction. I don't know.
Yeah. But don't you think the inscription is so exquisite? You can see that they use something sharp, right, to inscribe onto wet clay, very precisely. And then now, instead of trying to collect old tablets, 10th, 11th century, I ended up start collecting the new one with an inscription by Buddhist practitioners in Burma, because I thought that there's so much that I have to learn from the new one, because it seems that they continue the practice. Yeah.
Pat, can you perhaps show us again the picture, the first tablet inscribed that you showed at the beginning? I think
actually, I
you
have
saw it in
another
Singapore or some antique
and
shops?
Actually, there's another one that I like to thank Don Stratner and May Olwin and Gekko, who gave me pictures and translated inscription for me. And there's one picture that I think I put in here. Look at this. These are very beautiful. If you go I highly recommend it for you to go to National Museum in Yangon. They have very beautiful cases of tablets, and you can see on display the back of it too, just like amazing. So now I decided that I have to learn how to read all script, because otherwise I have to depend on everybody else reading it. Yeah. So, isn't that beautiful, this one? But next I'm going to work on Maitreya, and this is of course, the Andagu type that we still don't know the very much about it. I don't know how to go back to the one without going through this. Which one?
The very beginning.
Oh, the new one.
So, what do you make of this reading?
Well, I first...
A wish requested at the temple.
It was sold at an antique place in Singapore in a basket, right? So I saw that, that looked just like, you know, votive, the old tablets. So I asked the dealer, because I know that it's new, but why is there an inscription in the back? So I kept asking, can you read it for me? He said, oh, I don't know how to read it. So I took a picture, I showed it to May Olowin, who's the dean at NTU, National Nanyang, you know, very good university. So she read it for me, and then I showed it to Go, and then she read it for me too. They have the two versions that they read, and I said, this is really interesting because it can be translated two ways in this. But I'm sorry, I don't read it. Ajahn, can you read it?
But I mean, is it supposed to be ancient script?
The today's script now.
Oh, today's script,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
it's today's script. That's why I said now I have to learn because I want to read these stuffs. Yeah. This is not antique, but it was sold in an antique place.
Okay.
But then I got curious. Why did he do that? Who else did it? Or Aniruddha? And is there anybody else ahead of him? That's how I came up with this article. Just my own curiosity. Yeah. Yeah.
For the Myanmar, it's also come with the mold.
Yes. Yes.
But how come with the inscription? It always has to be hand done. So
Hand done.
there has to be some belief that this part has to be hand done. Otherwise, they would have done it as part of the mold.
Yes.
Someone did it.
I don't know how I script one page of my article. If you want the article, I can send you an attached file. I have a PDF file of that. But anyhow, what was I going to you were talking about?
Always has to be hand done with the stylus or something, right?
Uh-huh.
Whereas the Myanmar part is always part of the mold that they stamp on it.
Yes.
So there must have been some belief or something that you have
Yes.
to do it with your hand.
So if you go to River City or at the National Museum Bangkok, which is closed that wing, there's at BACC, there's this rich guy. He owns a gallery, and the gallery display objects that he collects, old and new. Right now, he displays one of Pagan tablets. Seum Kun. Yes, he collects a lot of Burmese things. Yes, you have to see, he put it on display right now. I just went 2 days ago, so I saw it. So the Ye Dhamma actually is part of the mold. So when you press it, you get that. But the inscription with Aniruddha's name and all that Peter put on his index, those are on hand scribed. Yeah. So very unique, don't you think? The king decided that he did it with his own hand. So I was trying to look around to see if there's any other kings. And of course, you know, Ashoka was famous, but he didn't get to see Ashoka's columns. Those were excavated much later than Aniruddha. I first thought, I asked Ajahn Peter, can it be possible that he see, you know, Ashoka? He said, no, that's, you know, many centuries later. It's been really interesting working on these materials. It inspired me to visit Burma, so I ended up 4 trips in a row to Burma working on these materials. Yeah, I highly recommended you because before Burma changed more, this is the time to visit it. Especially the museums are just high quality, very, very nice. Yeah.
In the beginning, you said that this practice of making a tablet like this was done in India.
Yes.
Right? And in India, does anyone write a name at the back?
No name. Yeah, no name in India. It must be. Do you find name in India?
In India, they found hundreds of thousands of tablets in the British period all over India installed, and not a single.
Not
name.
a single one has name. Yeah. And actually,
So that's a fair chance.
yeah.
They didn't have.
Yeah.
Bong Kwan with the Thai architectural team went and did excavation in, what is the name of that city near to Mandalay, Amarapura. Yes, and so you want to add something on there? Did you find any tablets? Because the king stupas, you found the king stupas. Yes, not the same period. But around there, did they find anything?
Not something like this.
Yes. So I feel so excited that there's young scholars who are interested in working on Burma, archaeology. Ek is another one who works on cloth and travel extensively in Burma. So I learned from them also. Yeah. You published a book. I remember you brought me a copy of that. Yeah. And the area where the Thai slaves were taken into Burma, there's still Thai people living in there. Yeah. Yes, in that area. What is the name of near to Sky? Yes, Sky. There's lots of Thai. In fact, when I hire a carriage, I heard one guy talk to the other guy and said, "Excuse me, you seem to speak Thai." And he laughed. He said, "Are you from Thailand?" He said, "Are you from Thailand?" He said, "Oh, we came 3 generations ago." Something like that. Yes. Yes, still speak a little Thai. I can hear them use some words. Sky. Yeah. I highly recommended you to go travel in that region. It's very safe and it's affordable. Not now with COVID. Yeah, not now. But when COVID is gone, I highly recommended you to go before it changed because it changes so fast. Like Sri Lanka, right? Yes, you still can go. It hasn't changed much, but it's really changing rapidly also. Huh? I did. I found tablets in Sri Lanka, but not, as. I have a feeling that they came to Sri Lanka through Thailand. The exchange, I think. Like Rama III sent Buddhist texts, right, to Sri Lanka. There's a temple that there's a hall with King Rama V picture. I went and the monks showed me letters that King Rama V wrote to the abbot there in exchange. Not covered with archival materials or anything. He just showed it to me. There's a lot of things that were exchanged with from Rama III, Rama IV, Rama V reigned best. Another one. What is the name of the Prince Prisada? Right. That's another one. There's a lot of materials. Yeah. Thai Buddha images in Sri Lanka came around that time, I think. I haven't found, but I have been to Sri Lanka only once. I haven't been back, and I haven't gone to the north at all. I just went to archaeological sites, and I haven't seen many Thai Buddha images except Thai temple. Yeah.
Because monks exchanged during the Sukhothai period.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Sri Lanka, and of course in Sukhothai there is Sri Lanka.
Sri Lankan temple. Yes, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you so much. Your question means a lot to me because it makes me rethink of what I have to say in the future. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much. I wrote an article in here on Pixony. This is a special volume for Princess Rinthorn.
Okay, you can continue discussing. It's interesting.